Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video on the Arrowverse. Today we're going to be talking about this really interesting article from Screen Rant. Stephen Amell talks about the Arrowverse and its potential future with DC Studios. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future DCTV videos later this year. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. So right now, the Arrowverse is in a tricky situation. We all know this. Obviously, Superman and Lois is up in the air, but technically it's not part of the Arrowverse, but it is really because it's linked to the shows, even though it's not on Earth Prime. And so I think that's where the confusion comes in. It's just not like properly linked to the continuity, but it's still an Arrowverse show at the end of the day. Same thing goes for Gotham Knights. We don't really know if it's linked at all to any of the shows. It's just another DC show on the CW. But right now, as you all know, the CW is in limbo. They are cancelling a bunch of shows. They cancelled so many Arrowverse shows like Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman and more. And so with Gotham Knights, we don't know if they're going to cancel it. Are they going to continue it because it's the cheapest Arrowverse show ever made? And will Superman and Lois continue over at the CW, or will it move to a streaming service like Max, considering that they already have the rights to the backlog of those episodes because they come out after they've aired on the CW. And in terms of The Flash just ended, and obviously we saw the return of Stephen Amell as Green Arrow, aka the original hero in the Arrowverse, so he's like the kind of founding father of the Arrowverse, and he's actually come out with a very interesting message on a live stream. So I'm reading from a Screen Rant article. They actually watched the live stream that Stephen Amell did, and the title of this article is "They Need Us a Lot More Than We Need Them." Arrow star calls out DC Studios for mixed messages about the Arrowverse. So we're going to be breaking down this article because I think it's really interesting, and it's definitely something that we have to talk about because obviously my channel is centered around the Arrowverse, and I very much so want to know what's going on with the future of the Arrowverse. Is it done? Is it dead? We don't know. Like, there is no definitive answer from the CW or from DC Studios. If, say, Superman and Lois were to continue at Max, that would be linked into the main DC Studios with James Gunn, so that means they would be helping to continue the Arrowverse even with just Superman and Lois. So let's go ahead and break this down. Arrow star Stephen Amell calls out DC Studios for giving mixed messages about the Arrowverse as the new DC universe moves forward. As DC Studios prepares to move into a new creative direction, studio co-leads James Gunn and Peter Safran have voiced plans for a new connected continuity. But as one franchise is rising, one ended as the CW's Arrowverse recently came to a close, or so that's what we think right now. The article then goes on to say, however, with the Arrowverse having supposedly ended with the Flash series finale, the star got the franchise started in 2012 is not thrilled with DC Studios, that being Stephen Amell, of course. So during a recent stream on Whatnot, the streaming service, Stephen Amell, who portrayed the Green Arrow for nearly a decade, spoke about the mixed messages he feels DC Studios is putting out. While he wishes nothing but the best for DC Studios, Amell shared the following. He says, "I don't know, man. I don't know. Those guys, the DCEU, they need to decide if they think that they are better than television or if they want to participate with television. Because I get mixed messages, which to me just signals that, I don't know, you guys do your own thing, we did our thing, first of all, and then I wish everyone nothing but the best, and I want nothing more than amazing movies, but right now, they need us a lot more than we need them." So let's go ahead and break down what Stephen Amell just said. So first things first, he's saying he's getting mixed messages, and I think we're all getting mixed messages right now, because if you remember a while ago when the whole dilemma with the CW cancelling a bunch of the DC shows was going on, actually the head of DC Studios, James Gunn, he actually commented on Superman and Lois saying that it's a great show, it should get a couple more seasons, and that's the last we've heard of it. So at first we're hearing signs that, okay, so, you know, the heads of DC Studios, they like the Arrowverse, they like what they're seeing specifically with Superman and Lois. Obviously, with all the other shows gone, they don't really have much to comment upon, and we all know with the CW, they don't have much involvement because they're the head of DC Studios. They will be in charge of overseeing TV for DC Studios over on Max, but not on the CW. It's a different thing entirely. And so what Stephen Amell was saying here is they need to decide if they think they want to incorporate the Arrowverse into the DC universe, because obviously in the past we've seen Ezra Miller show up as the Flash on Legends of Tomorrow during Crisis on Infinite Earths, where the two Flashes met for the first time, that being Ezra and Grant's Flash. So obviously there is already some connection there, but they haven't established if they want to participate with the Arrowverse and do they value what the Arrowverse has done. I think the Arrowverse is DC's best example of creating a multiverse. The DCEU can only hope to be the Arrowverse in terms of what it's created in terms of the multiverse, because they're just trying to do everything that they can to copy Marvel. But now I think DC Studios is going in a really interesting direction because they are incorporating this multiverse tactic with the films, the TV shows, and even animation. So they're going to have the characters who show up in animation being voiced by the same actors that will play them in live action. So everything is going to be connected. And obviously the DCTV shows are going to be released on Max, and they're all going to be linked in together, just like what Marvel is doing with the Disney Plus shows, as well as what they're doing with the MCU films. And I can't tell you how happy I was to hear Stephen Amell come out with a statement like this. Like, yeah, I know it's not in a press release or anything, it's just on a live stream, and he said it on a whim, probably being asked a question, but I think it's important that he says this because he is an established figure of the Arrowverse. He is the original actor who started the Arrowverse with his main character, Arrow, of course. And so he says something very true, which is they need us a lot more than we need them. And I think that is true because, you know, the architects behind the Arrowverse, like Greg Berlanti, like Stephen Amell, Grant Gustin, Melissa Benoist, they are so important to what was built. And I think they actually need them. I would say if DC Studios is smart, they would get Greg Berlanti involved with their multiverse, because he has been one of the main leading figures behind why these shows have worked, why the crossovers have been such a big thing. So I think it's entirely true what Steven is saying, that they definitely need the Arrowverse more than what we need them right now. And I like that he's calling this out. But at the same time, of course, they don't have any divine purpose to save the Arrowverse. Like, that's not their job, right? The heads of DC Studios, Peter Safran and James Gunn. That's not what they've been signed up for, right? But if they like what they've seen with the Arrowverse and want to continue it in any form, that would be awesome. And why not incorporate the whole thing in? Because you've got so many established actors like Stephen Amell, like Grant Gustin, like Melissa Benoist, like Cress Williams, that all had really good individual shows, and they could use those characters because there is already a connection between the audience that will be watching DCEU films who have watched the Arrowverse. So it would be great to see them actually show up in the future of the DCU. But let's continue with this article. So the next bit of the article connects into what we were just talking about. So will the Arrowverse continue via DC Studios? Though the future of Superman and Lois is unclear, the show is no longer technically a part of the Arrowverse. We just discussed that earlier, meaning the long-running franchise supposedly ended with the Flash's series finale. But just because it ended on CW doesn't necessarily mean that the franchise couldn't live on in other mediums, whether it be on the big or small screen, which is entirely true. And this is what I've been trying to hammer into you guys. The Arrowverse doesn't have to end if DC Studios wants to continue it, or if anyone wants to continue it, even if it's just Superman and Lois. And so they go on to say, depending on the story, Gunn and DC Studios could easily revive the Arrowverse for a limited run, with Max still being one of Warner Bros. Discovery's main destinations for DC properties. Any of the Arrowverse characters could come back, whether it be as a team-up show or a series focused on one of the main players. There is also the multiverse aspect, where the Arrowverse heroes could cross over into the DC universe. This is exactly what I just said, so I am agreeing with the Screen Rant writer here, because I think this is true. They could continue it if they want to, and again, they don't have to do it, like it's totally their choice, but it would be great to see Arrowverse characters come back. imagine if we did see it have a new TV show, or like just a limited run, or just like a one-time crossover, or potentially go the multiverse angle, which I think is probably the most likely if I'm being completely honest, because they are going full on multiverse with the DCU. And definitely the Flash film stands the best chance of having an Arrowverse crossover, that being seeing a familiar face potentially in the Speed Force. Obviously that's been something that we've theorized about for a while, like seeing Grant Gustin show up in the Flash film just makes total sense, and if it doesn't happen, that would be just really stupid in my opinion. But the article goes on and finishes by saying, given how popular the Arrowverse has been for over a decade, it wouldn't be a shock if the franchise came back in one form or another. Even if Gunn was never involved in the CW shows, he and the rest of DC studios are aware of how popular the Arrowverse is, which hopefully leaves the door open for them to revisit those characters. But for now, time will tell if the Arrowverse gets to come back in any capacity. So that's the end of the article. Let me give you my final analysis on this. So I think even if they want to kind of distance the DCU from what the Arrowverse was and the specific characters, they could bring in those characters and make them their own, just like Superman and Lois is doing right now, bringing back the same characters with the same actors. You can just totally retcon them and we'll be fine with it as long as we get to see those characters. It just opens an opportunity by, you know, exploring the multiverse for there to be crossovers, and I think all DC fans would love this. And I think this is actually relevant because there's been a big debate in the last week or so about the Flash and who's the best Flash. Is it Ezra Miller's Flash or is it Grant Gustin's Flash? And I think everyone has come to the conclusion easily that Grant is the best Flash. He's been doing it for 9+ years, and this came after the director of the Flash film said that Ezra is the best Flash that they've ever seen before and no one could replace them. But everyone online has been in defense of Grant's Flash because he is the ultimate best Flash, and it's just an example of like how popular the Arrowverse has become over these many years. And so I think there is no ignoring the Arrowverse, and I think they should at least save Superman and Lois. Hopefully we get some crossovers in the future, but I again have to emphasize they don't have the duty to save the Arrowverse in any way, but I think they should save Superman and Lois at least because it's just such a good show, and James Gunn even has acknowledged that in the past. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. And you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, but I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.
I see red.